Hello, Lake Wales.
Hello.
Catherine
Hi.
Price. I've decided I'm little lady number 3.
Okay.
And
I'm one of the three little ladies, and I'm Charlene Bennett.
And I'm the other three of the three little ladies, Juanita Zwarchuk.
cool. How are y'all ladies today?
Just fine. Raring to go.
I was down at the barbecue, with the Lake Wales art show yesterday. I was down there it was actually Friday evening for the barbecue. And somebody came up to me and said, "It's her, like one of the three little ladies." And I was like, "Yes, I'm a celebrity now." So it's sort of a dubious honor here.
But we've been getting some nice feedback from people in the community, and I know Juanita's seen lots of things on Facebook responses. So.
There's so much going on. I don't even know where to start. This last week has been crazy in Lake Wales at the city hall and the city government, right?
Yes.
The name of our little vid pod, as I'm calling it, because we have a video and a podcast, is "What the hell is going on at City Hall?"
Yes.
What about that meeting on Tuesday?
Yeah, that's the most imminent thing that's going on at City Hall is the next planning and zoning meeting, which starts at 5:30 this coming Tuesday. And the main thing on the agenda is the Lake Alta project.
That's true. That's true. That is the most imminent thing. They're going to be bringing up this new what they call Plan Development Project, PDP, that they want the Planning and Zoning Board to approve. And I'm going to go and I'm going to oppose that, because if they approve that PDP, it's going to give the CRA and the city the go-ahead to give the park to the developer, J. Welter Homes. So we want to know on that PDP.
They did have made some accommodations for the people in the neighborhood, but they still are planning to give that park away, and to have it in the people in charge of taking care of it would be an HOA, which could very well leave out all the people in the neighborhood. And we, the city would have no more control over it, and the neighborhood would have no more control over it. And who's to say what they would do with that park?
That's right. In the future,
an HOA doesn't always stay an HOA. A lot of times they fall.
And in the future, when there's a different set of commissioners, that HOA could go back the commission, ask for permission to do something different with that park, and we know nothing that anybody could do about it. The other thing, of course, about this is that they're giving the park to the developer for $10. That is cheating the citizens of Lake Wales. They own that park. We own it.
Well, that park has more financial value. It has financial value from the standpoint of just the land itself. Yes. And they say they're not going to close that little Lake Alta road, but if they close that road, that piece of property could be a really nice piece of property for even more of these cottages. Right now, that little 1.5 acres there in the middle of that nice little neighborhood, traditional neighborhood, by the way, that little Olmsted designed park, which Olmsted was the very famous landscape architect that helped design the layout of Lake Wales. That firm, it's actually the Olmsted brothers, I think. They were the sons of the original Edward Law Olmsted. But at any rate, that little park is a really nice little park that it has financial value.
Yes, we keep hearing that city has to increase its tax base. It needs more money. Well, giving away a park is no way to help the city get any money. If they were going to sell a park, it should be at least sold for what it's worth rather than for $10.
Well, it's being done through what they call the Community Redevelopment Agency. And at some point, we may need to address this because I'm starting to become alarmed about the type of projects that they're running through this thing called the CRA. I'm starting to call it funny money. But the purpose of the CRA is Community Redevelopment Agency. It's supposed to be improving the value of property in a particular, what they call blighted area usually. Well, that little community is actually quite charming. And I cannot see how cramming 24 or 28 units on an acre and a half instead of the 6 units that it's now zoned for is going to improve the value of that little community. If anything, it will deteriorate the value. And just to be final, the city issued permits because it's a long story that we can't go into here, but that little acre and a half that was previously park also and was sold to some developers that made a lot of money on it, it's actually zoned for 6 houses. They want to put 24. First he said 28, now they're saying 24. They gave this developer a permit to put 6 water and sewer hookups on it. They've already put 14 on it. Mm-hmm. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that somebody has said something that indicate to this developer that they can put those there? Or does it mean that the developer is trying to force the city into a position where they have to allow them to put more on it?
Yes, those are very unanswered questions at this point. And we heard at the last city commission for raising those questions, we were accused of making accusations, but those are legitimate questions to be asked because they're not answered to this point. Now, the other thing that needs to be looked at in this project is the traffic and parking issues. Now, they claim that they're talking with the police department, et cetera, about how they can improve those traffic issues during school time. But they didn't tell us how it's going to be done. And I will be really surprised if there is any way to improve it very much. The other thing is this project currently waives all guest parking. And that means that all the guests of any of these folks have to do street parking. And the people that have more than 2 cars, they have to do street parking too. So there's already a good bit of street parking there that causes a problem during school hours. So I don't think they've given us any satisfactory answers to those things.
I'd like to make a point. It seems like they're trying to justify all this by using Envision. And because infill is such an important thing to that particular, for Envision. But the point is that they can still use that for infill. They just don't have to make it as big and put as many houses on it. No one's saying that they shouldn't infill, but they should infill according to what's around the area that they're infilling. And we don't need infill so badly that we have to give land away. If there's a developer, this developer doesn't want to develop there because we're not going to give him the park, well then, another developer will come along. It's been sitting there for a long time the way it is. Why can't we wait just for another developer who will develop within reason there and not have to give up?
Well, and I want to make 2 points here. Like when the Planning and Zoning Board rejected this, well, they didn't reject it, but they basically would not approve this project at the last meeting on the 23rd of January. They told the developer to get with the people that live there and work out the differences between the developer and the neighbors. The developer spoke to several of the people that had come to the Planning and Zoning Board meeting in the hallway outside of the meeting. And then he came back to the city and claimed he had met with the residents. And he made his changes to his PDP that will be presented this coming Tuesday on the 27th, based on over a conversation with several people in the hallway outside of the meeting. The people that live over there next to Lake Alta, and myself, I would attend it, expected a more formalized meeting that was, noticed to the residents and that would allow even some of the people from like Spook Hill School maybe and Walk North to be able to come and talk about some of the problems of the community. And so the city is treating that little meeting, that little discussion in the hallway as if it was the meeting that the Planning and Zoning Board indicated. The second thing is we had this surprise meeting that popped up on Friday. This meeting, they called a meeting Thursday afternoon, just past Thursday afternoon, held a 4-hour meeting on Friday up at the old YMCA at the family, what do they call it now? The
Lake Wells Family Recreation Center. And it was a workshop, not a regular commission meeting, but it wasn't adequately noticed as I understand it.
They gave less than 24 hours notice. It was a 4-hour meeting. They talked about a lot of issues relative to Lake Wales Envisioned, where, the huge number of people in the community participated in that to come up with some visions for Lake Wales development. They basically talked about that, but they also talked about the Lake Alta project. And they were trying to reach agreement that they were all going to support the project going forward. And the interesting thing, some people that like Robin Gibson made a couple of interesting remarks. One of them was the people don't really understand what's going on up there. Mm-hmm. And the other one was the current developer, J. Walter Homes, is actually suing the previous owner of the property, who was this guy, Henry Kababjian, that the city had a lot of trouble with. I think what happened was he sold those lots as if they already had water and sewer on them and they were buildable lots when they weren't. But it's not our job as a city to bail out people that make bad investments. That's not on us.
Well, I want to tell you something that I am suspicious about with regard to this workshop with this particular agenda item. Since they made it clear that they're in support of the park, of the giveaway of the park, I'm wondering if they did that as a way of influencing planning or intimidating the Planning and Zoning Board so that they would think it's a done deal and they may as well go along with it.
Well, it was weird in so many levels.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not a done deal. It's not a done deal. People should definitely come to the meeting.
Well, what's going to happen is they're going to come to the Planning and Zoning meeting on Tuesday at 5:30, I think, at the City Hall. And the Planning and Zoning Board is going to look at the new revised plan development project proposal. And if they accept it, then it gives the okay for James Slayton, who is the city manager, but also the director of the CRA, the Community Redevelopment Agency, to go back to the CRA. Again, the CRA is still the city commission. The same 5 guys that are sitting on the city commission are on the CRA board, and they're going to ask them to transfer the property to the developer. Mm-hmm. And that is before, I'm sorry, go ahead.
People can speak before the P&Z board decides to okay it. And so that's why people need to come to this meeting and say what they think before the and look, those people on the P&Z board, they're just citizens like we are. And they can easily be intimidated too. So they need to know that they have citizens behind that don't want this done. Give them some support to say no.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion.
But there is one possible tragic aspect to this. If the P&Z,
I gotta feed my dogs or they're gonna bark.
Okay. If the P&Z board says no to this project, the developer can go over their head and go to the city commission, and that's a really unfortunate piece of this.
Well, it's something that we deal with if it happens. That would be something else to pose questions.
Yeah.
Like why doing something that the P&Z board decided was not appropriate.
Yeah. So Juanita, you're going to go speak at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, are you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm going to be there.
Me too.
It's like this stuff is exhausting, like we had this crazy city commission meeting on Tuesday night. And a lot of that meeting was taken up with also this issue that should have been dealt with before the CRA, the Community Redevelopment Agency Board. This issue that, Robert Connors had written this article about this business incubator down in the Northwest area. And also he had talked about some concerns. Now, I think Robert got it a little bit wrong on the business licenses, but there were a lot of other issues related to this thing that he got right. And I've been actually doing a lot of digging on this business incubator, and also there's another contract with this guy, Daryl Starling, that is going down into and supposedly looking for projects that the CRA can do down in the northwest area of the city. And part of the problem is both of these guys have their own little for-profit corporations, and the city is transferring direct large sums of money into these for-profit corporations. And so far, I have not been able to find any kind of financial reporting back to the city of what the money we gave them was spent for. There doesn't seem to be a mechanism for reporting how the money was spent.
Mm-hmm.
So I am actually trying to get a meeting with James Slayton, the city manager and the director of the CRA, to ask him what the city's doing to track and figure out how these monies are spent.
Yes, and so far, I haven't been able to figure out any benefit to the Northwest community that these projects have resulted in. Now, maybe there is some, and we need to find it. And certainly, the ideas are good. The BizLink idea is a good one, and the CRA efforts are good. But if they're not being implemented in a way that benefits the Northwest community, then that's a big problem.
Well, we need to know where the money is being spent. I think there's been some interesting articles by Billy Townsend. Billy is kind of a little controversial figure in Polk County, but he writes a pretty hard-hitting, blog called Public Enemy Number One, and he asked some really good questions that I hadn't thought about this issue. He's like, was there a PDP? It would, not a PDP, but was there a RFP, a competitive bid for these contracts to begin with? And he asked why they gave them to for-profit corporations instead of not-for-profit corporations. Usually these business incubators are run by not-for-profits because you have to know what percentage of this money, and actually the business incubator project is a $1.25 million project.
Mm-hmm.
I went down, they're supposedly open during the day, and I went down there the other day and the thing was locked up and I couldn't get in. I tried calling the telephone number. There wasn't a telephone number on the website that I could find for BizLink. I finally found, I'm sorry, y'all keep talking. This is the exciting part about living and doing your business in the same place. Now I got to go let my dog out the back door. Y'all
okay.
Okay.
All right. I would like to follow up on Catherine's comment, Juanita, by saying that the director of BizLink, the COO of BizLink, is Derek Blue, who is a pastor, and he is associated with the High Point Church, which is our mayor's church, where he's the pastor. Now, at the meeting, the mayor said he's not on our staff. However, if you look at YouTube and you look at the website, the church's website, you see that he is presented as one of 4 people. Himself and Hillegas and 2 other people are presenting themselves as the, quote, training or teaching team at the church. Now, if he cannot be on the staff and still be on the teaching team, I guess there's some way to make that possible. But my point here basically is that the mayor has had a church relationship with this guy for some time. He's never disclosed it when it's come up for discussion, and he has not recused himself when it comes time to a vote. So it's it's just something that scares me. I wonder how many other things like that might be happening.
Right. Well, I looked into this. This contract. Like I said, I'm going to go down and I'm going to talk to this gentleman. I've talked to James Slayton, the city manager, and see, how they can track the money and what. So this guy Daryl Starling, I've got his contract, and it's like 3 pages, and that one of the pages is a long list of things that he's supposed to be doing down in the Northwest area. All of them are pretty vague, like finding projects to do that were good for the CRA. I can't, and I think a couple of the things he's done, he even said at the meeting, let's see, I can't remember whether at the CRA or I think it was at the CRA, he said he was down giving things to nonprofits because they had given him this lump sum of $100,000. So he's basically claimed that he was giving money to other people in the Northwest area. So I want to know who got what and how much, and those are the kind of things that should not be ambiguous in these kind of contracts. And I could not find any kind of reporting requirements by that contract. I asked for any kind of reports that these people gave back. He's in his 2nd year of the contract, $100,000 each year. And he told them that he doesn't have any reports to give.
I saw that.
So basically, this gentleman has been given $200,000. In this year, he asked for it in a lump sum. The only person that questioned him was Robin Gibson. He asked something about what they call a clawback clause, which means if you don't complete your contract, how do we get the money back from you? And Mr. Starling said something to the effect, no, that's going to go into my family fund.
Yes. And that's absolutely irresponsible for the city to spend money that way, to give it to somebody when they have no assurance that he's going to do what he's supposed to do with it, and there's no way that they can get it back if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do.
They accepted that as an answer. I was at that meeting when he said it was going to go in his family fund, and then they just moved right on. It's like, huh?
Well, then, so Mr. The other guy who, by the way, these guys are from Tampa. They're not really from Lake Wales.
That's true.
This other guy, Derek Blue or
Derek Blue.
Derek Blue, right? I'm getting the D's mixed up. Derek Blue from the incubator. His company is called Florida Development Corporation. And by the way, he has a lot of different corporations. I went in trying to track where he, and in that meeting on Tuesday at the city commission, he said he was a serial entrepreneur. And I'm thinking, does that mean that you create a lot of corporations and then shut them? Because I couldn't track them. And so he got up, the city commission, I guess Jack Hilligoss let him talk for almost an hour and a half. I thought, and basically he was beating up on the Lake Wales News, talking about how all the information was totally wrong. Now, there were a couple of things that were wrong, to be fair, but a lot of it was right. Yeah. And really, Robert was on the right track with where he was going. And then actually Hilligoss, I think, and Danny Kruger, they started kind of talking bad about a lot of people. They were saying, they were talking, there was instigators. We're the bad people because we're asking questions.
Yes.
Yeah. They for sure just lit into that. That's where I think it absolutely should have stopped. It's one thing for the man to come up, as I said at the meeting, and for Blue to get up there and defend his business. But then for Kruger and Hilligoss to jump right on that bandwagon and start defending their business too, at the expense of another business in the area, the LakeWalesNews.net. That was really uncalled for and unfair, and on top of that, kind of sleazy.
Well, they brought forward all these people that have some kind of association with the BizLink project, And some of them, it may be, it's just a simple thing like they use their a mailing address there. But there was a tremendous religious flavor to those presentations. And we heard a lot of words like God and Satan. We heard Satan more than once. And somebody said it felt like a revival. But to me, it's reflective of where the city has been going in terms of the fundamental Christians kind of taking over. And maybe we can talk about that some other time. I know we've already in 25 minutes here.
Well, I want to be clear for myself. I can't speak for others, but, I want to make a distinction that, I'm a Christian, and I feel like that, sometimes people become defensive, when we just throw out Christian. But
no. I said fundamental Christian is something very different from what you are a Quaker Christian. Those are very different things.
Well, I mean, we have a lot of Christians in Lake Wales that are doing a lot of good stuff,
I agree.
And we can't paint everybody with the same brush, but the problem is when you cloak what you're doing in Christianity, and I think, we should end up a little bit with this video that's been going around the town that some of us saw for the first time this week of Pastor Hilligoss when he spoke to the Liberty pastors.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Just quickly, some of the things that he boasted about in that was that he had gotten, that he said, I'm the mayor and I get to appoint all the board positions, and I have appointed 15 church members, most of them from I think he said 15 conservative Christians, most of them from my church. He bragged about, pardon?
He took pride in that.
Well, and you asked to go on the planning and zoning meeting, and I think you were bumped for somebody that might have been in his church.
Yes.
Yes.
You were, yes.
There were other aspects to that. There were 5 people that went for it, and the other ones that didn't make it got an alternate position, but not.
Yeah.
Which, you know what? I'm really glad, because I notice when you get on those boards, sometimes then you feel beholden to agree with power, and I would rather be the person who asks the questions and tries to find out exactly what the hell is going on.
Yeah. Another thing that he boasted about, he says, I'm the mayor and I get to decide who speaks and who doesn't. I think those were pretty much his exact words. And he said, one time there was a liberal senator coming to speak, and I didn't let him speak because he doesn't live in Lake Wales.
I don't think it was a liberal senator. I think he was referring to Darren Soto, who was our U.S. congressman at the time.
I thought he said, I thought he used the word senator, but he probably was.
He might have, but I think it was Darren Soto.
It was.
And that was after we had he said he couldn't speak because he was from outside of Lake Wales. And that was after we had established clearly before the city commission that was illegal. And he bragged about keeping our congressman from speaking before them. I think it was when he didn't sign that pride proclamation. But the point is, I thought, if I was the mayor, I don't care how conservative or how much I didn't like or disagree politically with my congressman, if they came to speak in front of our city commission, they would be allowed to speak. Because if we have a hurricane and we need federal aid, if there's 2 federal grants coming up and we need somebody to fight for our town, we want our congressman in our court. And I was just appalled.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that people are really interested, and I think that, Jack bragged about a lot of things. In the beginning, he explains why he got into politics, and all of that was okay, and I think it's good to get people civically involved, which he talks about that too. But then toward the end, when he started bragging about the things that he's done and why and where he's going with it, it got a little bit shaky and scary.
Yeah, and when you connect that with the fact that he went to that Liberty Pastors training, and at that training, they badmouth Black Lives Matter. They call it Marxist. They badmouth all the LGBTQ stuff. And Jack Hillegoss is quoted in that article about being upset by the rants of agitators who came in from Black Lives Matter into our city, etc. So the fact that we know some of the training that he got there, and that he wants to bring that into city government, and it's had already brought it in by denying the Pride Proclamation, that's really scary stuff. And I'm sorry I used the word fundamental Christians too loosely there. What we're talking about is a particular kind of Christianity that maybe isn't even Christianity. It's kind of a power-oriented thing.
Right. And I would just say my last thing I was doing before I got on this call was trying to determine what the affiliations for this Liberty Pastors is. And it's really hard. I thought it might be associated with that Liberty University that Jerry Falwell had started, because there had been a lot of scandal associated with that university in the last few years. But I couldn't really figure out from the internet what that associated, but there were a lot of organizations that were affiliated with this Liberty Pastors that I'd really like to look into, because some of them look pretty scary. And I think some of those were actually affiliated with that the January 6th insurrection. I mean, there's a lot of overplay here, and that we probably can't go into here, but that was a really instructive video that I think that people that are concerned about Lake Wales should watch. Do we want to end up our conversation about, like, we're having, our elections? I think we could go on and on with this stuff, but the most important thing is that people need to show up for that planning and zoning meeting on Tuesday at 5:30 at City Hall, and help us tell the city we don't want our city park given away.
And you don't have to make a big speech. If you just come and say, I am opposed to this for one or two reasons, or if you just get up and say, I agree with what that person said, or I agree with what all these people have said. That's all you have to do to send a message.
Also, I think that, there's a lot of good things going on in Lake Wales. And I think that we need to be supporting the good things that our city government is trying to do. I think there are some good things going on with our parks, with our recreation, I think that there are good staff at our city that are really trying to do their job. And I think that it's hard for them to do it sometimes when there's a lot of contentious politics going on. But we need to know there's an election coming up on April, what's the date? April
2nd.
I always get the dates mixed up. But anyway, because a lot of times, that vote by mail goes out to 2 or 3 weeks before that. I think it's days before the election. But we have 2 city commissioners that are coming up. You want to talk about that, Juanita?
Oh, about our forum. There's a forum. I say our forum. The AAUW and the GFWC Women's Club of Lake Wales for the last several years have been combining together to host a candidate forum for several different things, once for the school board, twice for the city. Before that, the AAUW had a long history of doing this by themselves. So on March 4th at 5:30, 275 East, Park Avenue, the Women's Club, there will be a forum. You will get to meet candidates. You will get to hear them explain their vision for Lake Wales, and you will have an opportunity to ask them questions. And that's and get responses, which is something that's very, very hard to do in this in Lake Wales. And when we go to commission, we can say something, but nobody answers us, right? We can ask a question, nobody answers it at a meeting. This would be a public forum where you can ask questions and get answers from people that could well be making, very important choices for you. So please.
What time does it start?
5:30.
5:30.
And give me the date again.
March 4th.
And that day is what, a Monday?
Yes.
It's a Monday.
Monday.
Yep.
Okay, and we've got 2 seats that are open, that are not open. Well, we have incumbents in there, but we have 2 seats that are up for election. The first one is Danny Kruger's seat. And that seat, I believe that's seat 4 is what it is. And he is running against Carol Gillespie. Then the second seat is Daniel Williams. And in that race, there's Daniel Williams, Brandon Alvarado, and Crystal Higbee, I believe is her name. So there's 3 people in that race.
Catherine, I want to make a comment about the forum.
Yes.
It's nonpartisan. This is a nonpartisan forum, okay? And
Good point.
all candidates were invited to attend. So I just want to put that out there. You know, this is not a political, party thing, or it's both organizations are nonpartisan. So,
Yeah, and we would like to encourage the candidates themselves to join these forums, because the people have a right to be able to talk to them and to figure out, what they're going to do for the city of Lake Wales. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Any final, hey, let's do this. So like at the city commission, at the end, they all get to go around and they get to say their little say. So, any closing thoughts kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I'll be the one that says no comments today.
Well,
How about you, Anita?
I saw a wonderful meme and it really hit me. I told Charlene about it. It said, "Speak your truth, even if your voice shakes." And I think that's really says it all. It's not easy to get up and say what you think is right, but you need to do it anyway because somebody has to do it.
Well, and I will say, on, I guess it was it Friday, I sat down and I penned a very thoughtful letter about some things I thought would improve the relationship between, because they complain a lot at the city commission, the city commissioners, about how they wish we could get along better in Lake Wales. So I wrote this very thoughtful letter about very practical things I thought we could do to improve that relationship. And actually at the next city commission, I would like to bring that letter and give that to the commissioners again. I sent it to them anyway on Saturday morning. I was trying to send it to them via email, and I got notice that they had called this meeting on Thursday and spent 4 hours Friday up at the
recreation center.
Recreation center, and there's no videotape up there. It was almost like a completely closed meeting where they talked about development, they talked about Lake Alta, and it just made it was really hard. I'd written this very thoughtful letter. So I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this town around developing a healthy public input to our government. And I think we're exciting. We're playing a part in that conversation, right, ladies?
Yes. Enjoyed talking with you.
Y'all have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.